Hello and welcome back to Sustainable Teacher. If it is your first time here, my name is Leticia and I'm glad to meet you. And if you've been here before, I'm happy to see you in. In today's video we finished this unit about nutrition, talking about healthy eating habits and sustainable eating habits. So if this video sounds interesting to you, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Up to now we've talked about which type of nutrients do we have and how we use the energy from these nutrients. Today we are going to talk about some concepts of nutrition, but not focused on the concept of nutrients and energy requirements and metabolism, but more related with our next unit, which is health. So we are going to talk about what it means to eat healthy, and also we will talk a little bit about ecology and how can we, through nutrition, help the environment. Before starting talking about this, I want to clarify some basic concepts that we should all know, and I've prepared some definitions for you. So we must take into account that today we're going to talk about eating, not nutrition. The process of nutrition is to get the nutrients from the food through the digestion in the digestive system, circulatory, etc. But when we eat, when we feed ourselves, the process of feeding or eating is just taking food and ingesting it, okay? Eating is a voluntary process, it's a conscious process. If I want to eat, I will eat. If I don't want to, I won't, right? So it's a conscious process, and there is a misconception usually with this name, which is diet. And when we think of diet, we think of specific food that we eat to lose weight or gain muscle. But actually, diet is everything we eat. If I have coffee with a toast for breakfast and then pasta for lunch and some salad for dinner, this is my diet. Right? It's just what I eat. It's not a specific diet to lose weight or anything. It's just what we eat. The precise moment when we are eating, we call this intake. And the quantity of food that we eat, we call this portion. Portion is just the amount of food that we take. So what does it mean to eat healthy? It means eating a little bit of everything. Probably not. This is an old concept. When we nowadays say that we should eat healthy, we mean that we should follow the recommendation of the World Health Organization, okay? Eating, of course, a variety of food, but some food or some drinks are never healthy, even if we eat them in a low quantity, even though it's not healthy. Drinking water, at least 3 liters of water per day. Limiting how much meat, specifically red meat, we eat. It is not, some people say that we shouldn't eat any red meat at all. I think that maybe this is too restrictive for some people, but at least limiting the quantity of meat we eat weekly is a good habit. Of course, also saturated fats, which are some type of fats that don't have, they have a special chemical structure which is not good for our cells. And also the quantity of sugar, but not sugar in general, specifically about added sugar, okay? It's better to choose non-processed or low-processed, well-processed food rather than ultra-processed foods. For instance, if I want to eat a hamburger, it's better if I take the meat, I grate it and I mix it on my own rather than if I buy a prepared burger, okay? Or for instance, it's better taking the fruit, if we eat a fruit like an orange or an apple, it's better to take it on its own rather than taking it in a juice, because the nutrients, specifically sugars, are embedded in the matrix of the fiber of this fruit. If we remove the fiber and we just leave the juice, sugars are going to be released, so we are taking more sugar in a shorter period of time. If we digest them with the fiber, our body will be releasing them in a longer period of time, so that's better. In here I've included some posters with some information about healthy eating habits, like this healthy eating plate, which indicates the right portions we should include in any plate we eat. Okay, we will talk a little bit about this in the next slide. Then about the quantity of added sugar. It's not necessarily sugar like with the spoon, the white sugar with spoon. It's just sugar included in food. Usually, what we are used to see or to learn to talk about how should we eat, how many vegetables, how many meat per week or per day, or eggs, etc. We are used to the pyramid, right? But nowadays we know that this pyramid was created maybe in the 70s of last century, because there was an excess of grain production in the USA. So they decided to tell us that the base of our diet should be grains, because it was a way to use all these grains that were accumulating in the USA. And then the vegetables, and then proteins, and finally fats and sugars, right? Nowadays we know that this is not the best or perfect diet proportion. We now know that the biggest proportion should be vegetables. If we look at this circle, we call this the Harvard plate or Harvard dish. From 2/3 even to half of this circle should be vegetables and fruits. Then a quarter, more or less, should be grains and legumes. Better whole grains than white grains. And then the last quarter should be protein. It doesn't matter animal or vegetal origin, okay? And of course, some fats and some water. Apart from the fact of eating healthy, there are some other points of view that we should take into account. When we talk about food security, for instance, we can refer or to guarantee that all the population has access to food. For instance, in some countries like India, not all the population has access to a wide range of food, so they can suffer malnutrition, okay? And in other cases, it's not guaranteed that we can access all type of foods, but also that the food we eat is in the perfect sanitary conditions. I think it was last summer, yeah, I think that you have the new also in here if you want to read it. There was a problem with omelets, specifically a brand in Spain of Spanish omelette, of potatoes omelette, right? Because there was a contamination with fecal bacteria. So guaranteeing that the products that you eat don't contain any germs or bacteria that can cause us illnesses is also part of the food security. And malnutrition is a concept that is very general. I said malnutrition when you don't have access to all the nutrients, all the food. This is undernutrition when we are in a deficiency of some nutrients. But in our countries, sometimes the problem is the opposite. We overeat, we have overnutrition, and this will cause us problems like obesity, diabetes, or cardiovascular problems. Another big problem nowadays is food allergies and food intolerances. And talking about food hygiene, we should take into account that the food we eat or the food we produce at home should be safe in 3 ways. The physical way, so we shouldn't find, for instance, hair or a nail in the food we eat. Chemically, sometimes there are some vegetables, for example, that are removed from market because they have more concentration of fertilizers than what is legal to be eaten. So that's an example of chemical contamination, chemical pollution in food. And then biological, if we have bacteria or fungi growing up in our food and we eat it, we will be ill. This is when we have biological contaminants. That's for health. And now a little bit of food sustainability. So, for instance, the water we use to water the crops that we can eat later, or that we can give the animals to eat the animals. So first we grow the grass, the cow, for instance, will eat the grass and then we eat with the cow, okay? Apart from the water we use, we need to use fertilizer, pesticides, insecticides, antibiotics for animals, okay? The other words for plants. These fertilizers and chemical products in general, if we don't take good care, can end in the land or in the rivers, and they can contaminate lands and rivers as well. All the steps in the food chain, from the raw material to the processed food, will also have an impact, like electricity in the factory to produce it, the fuel we use for transporting the food from the factory to the supermarket, and of course the packaging is a problem. We use too much plastic in our packagings, like the muffins. We have one muffin inside one plastic bag, which is next to another muffin in another plastic bag with another plastic bag, so we have a package of 2 muffins with a plastic bag, and then lots of different packages of 2 of muffins inside plastic in a big plastic bag. We don't have only to talk about environment sustainability, we can also talk about economic sustainability. Is it economically sustainable to produce our food? How many cents will receive the farmer for our oranges or for our milk, for our meat? Is it can they afford? Is it they earn money, or they will lose money because producing the materials is more expensive than the benefit they get from it? This is really interesting because sometimes the farmers, they have agreed some prices, and now with the rise of the cost of fuels, the cost of electricity, they don't earn as much as before, or even they lose money. I'm gonna give new about it also, and we should take this into account, that sometimes from the producer to the supermarket there is a big change of intermediate people that will also want to get benefit from this, and maybe if we don't want to pay a big quantity of money for this, probably the producer won't receive what should receive. So how can we help? First, eating locally products. If I have to choose meat, I will choose meat from Madrid instead of meat from Argentina, because I live in Madrid. Eating also seasonal food. Now is pumpkin season, it's autumn, so it's a good time to eat pumpkins. So we can adapt our diet to the time of the year we are, and eat what will grow naturally in those moments, not in a greenhouse, for instance. And of course, avoid food with a lot of packaging could be another good action to be more sustainable eating. And that's the end of the video and the end of Unit 2 this year. Hope you understood everything. If you have any doubt, please leave it in a comment, and of course, see you soon.